Herb.
Yo, I don't think we should talk about this.
Come on, why not?
People might misunderstand what we're trying to say, you know? But that's a part of life, okay? Come on.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex.
Let's talk about sex for now. To the people at home or in the crowd, it keeps coming up anyhow. Don't decoy, avoid, or make void the topic,
Cause that ain't gonna stop it.
now we talk about sex on the radio and video shows.
Many will know
Anything goes. Let's tell it like it is and how it could be. How it was and of course how it should be. Those who think it's dirty have a choice. Pick up the needle, press pause, or turn the radio off. Will that stop us, Pen?
I doubt it.
Alright then, come on, spin.
Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex.
Oh my gosh, look at her butt go. Oh my gosh, look at her butt go. Oh my gosh, look at her butt go. Oh my gosh, look at her
My anaconda don't.
Fuck 'em on top, big boo, no training bra, big boss bitch. I could get you a new car. Fuck 'em in them Saint Laurent heels. He said I'm too tall. Wanna wife me up? I go silent and say ha ha ha.
Love in 1,000 different flavors. I wish that I could taste them all night. No, I ain't got no dinner plans, so you should bring all your friends. I swear that to all of y'all my type. All you girls in here.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh.
I was created to be the world's most advanced and most beautiful, fully autonomous android.
Are you attracted to me?
What?
Are you attracted to me? You give me indications that you are.
I'm getting nervous around a robot, a very pretty robot.
You look lonely. I can fix that.
Yes, this aluminum-encased, battery-powered robotic woman is the perfect answer for any modern family.
Westworld, Black Mirror, The Stepford Wives, Pixel Perfect. The trope of the male fantasy fembot has been treated in so many different ways, from uncritical depictions to highly subversive character arcs. As this Collider article puts it, the manufactured woman stands in contrast to her human, usually male counterpart. Beautiful yet unworldly, dangerous yet vulnerable, sexualized yet infantilized. She's often created by men for the purpose of men's pleasure, and as she struggles to retain her agency and autonomy, she may find herself on the path to revolution. Manufactured women cater to male fantasies, but with all film tropes, this can be subverted, criticized, and destroyed altogether. Though AI doesn't have a body, it isn't alive or organic, it's often coded to look and sound like a woman or engage with feminine gender presentation, so that they become these artificial women. And these artificial women are present both on and off screen. Men creating their perfect woman goes back as far as 8 AD with the myth of Pygmalion and Galatea as described by Ovid in Metamorphoses. In this myth, a sculptor carves a woman out of ivory so perfect that he falls in love with it. And after praying to Aphrodite, the sculpture comes to life and the two live happily ever after. There are several versions of this myth, but this is the most predominant one. Since then, countless films have depicted men's attempts to mold women into their ideal. With the advent of sci-fi and technology, this trope has sparked the invention of the fembot, an attractive, female-presenting robot that caters to the whims of their male users and creators, and this trope goes back almost 100 years with the 1927 film Metropolis. I think there's something unsettling about the gendering of AI, considering the role that it plays in our life. They often perform labor that has historically been relegated to women. Digital assistants like Alexa or Siri act as a form of secretary that has traditionally been a woman's role. Some AI may perform, or in the future will perform, emotional labor and act as a sort of therapist for their user. And of course, SEX robots are performing the roles done by SEX workers, the majority of whom have historically been women. With all of this technology, simulations of everything from women's subservience and empathy to their bodies can be bought. Digital women are now for sale. This is especially unsettling considering the imbalanced gendered hierarchies in the tech industry. There's this prevailing ambition to make the perfect artificial woman who obeys, helps, and appeals to their users. And how much of this can be put down to male fantasies or men's desires to control women, I'm not sure. But the fact that the feminine gendering of AI and the demand for female AI is so pervasive really speaks to the desire to have subservient and attractive women without caring how women actually feel. As Jennifer O'Mara writes, in the real world, this trend of giving female names and voices to devices using speech technologies is thought to reinforce broader cultural desires for women to be passive, agreeable, and easily dominated.
I think the biggest problem that AI presents is that big tech presents a series of low-calorie, low-risk entry points into what feels like a reasonable facsimile of a relationship. I think I'm making friends online. No, but you're not really experiencing friendship. I think I'm in a relationship with somebody. Well, are you really? I'm learning. No, you're not. You're gambling on Coinbase or Robinhood. And rather than endure the rejection and try and develop the skills and make the effort, and it is an effort and involves rejection, of going out into the physical world and revealing yourself as someone who would like to be friends with another man, express romantic interest, take those risks. We're developing these digital analogs of life that create low entry, low risk relationships. And you think, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is, because it leads to depression. Because the reason why romantic comedies are 2 hours and not 20 minutes is that life is about the victory of taking risks, enduring rejection, and having a small business that works. About approaching someone and getting the interview, cold emailing someone and getting a coffee, and quite frankly, pursuing someone and developing the skills and deciding to put on a clean shirt and maybe shower more often and maybe hit the gym every once in a while and maybe text when you're not sure how this person feels about you, and figure out a way to interact with someone around the nuance and develop the skills around human sexuality such that you can develop a relationship. That is the victory. That's the payoff after the 2 hours. And fewer men are engaging in those risks and that victory. And I think that AI, in combination with sex bots, is going to create an industry where men start having relationships with algorithms and dolls. Supposedly the sex bot industry is going to be bigger than the domestic box office receipts of all movie theaters in the US within 5 to 6 years. So we're going to have men having relationships with machines and dolls as opposed to other humans. And I think it creates a level of depression. I think Her should be required watching for every teen male, and I think every teenager in high school should have a course as part of health on mating dynamics, where they teach especially young men that approaching a woman and expressing romantic interest while making her feel safe is a skill, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that the end game, a relationship, a partner, a romantic partner, is one of the keys to a happy life. And I think most studies bear that out.
So earlier this year, I was researching porn content, and here's some of what I found. On Xhamster, the fourth most popular porn site, the homepage promoted scenes titled MILF, Mum I'd Like to Fuck, Shocked and Blackmailed into Sex, followed by Mum Fucks Son, After Husband Dies. Yes, these are also my reactions. Now, in real life, here today, we call the former sexual assault and the latter incest. On XNXX, which is the third most popular site, all those sexual categories are on the homepage, and there are 7 solely dedicated to sexual assault, including the category young, teen, forced. Research backs this up. So studies show that anywhere between 40 and 88% of porn is aggressive. One of those studies revealed that 94% of the aggression is targeted at women. And 95% of the time, the woman responds with a neutral or pleasurable response. So that's the same as you calling me a slut while gagging me, and my responding with, yes please, I like it. I was talking about porn a couple of years ago to a group of young people, and we were talking about sexuality in general. And this boy, he was probably about 16, he came up to me at the end, and he said in a really quiet voice, he said, I think I like hurting girls. And so I queried him a little bit further, and I asked what he thought led to some of those desires. And his thoughts and his words were, I think it's from what I've been watching online. Another study last year asked young people what they believed they had learnt from porn, and a 15-year-old boy said, I now know more about how a woman enjoys herself. We know girls are learning too. So there's this really interesting phenomenon where girls are more likely to watch porn with their friends, with their peers, than they are by themselves. Why? Well, what some of them have expressed to me at least is that they want to know what's expected of them. So yes, porn does aid us in getting ideas about sex, but many of those ideas are unhealthy, unethical, or in some cases, illegal.
It's pretty soulless sex, isn't it? Just watching porn and masturbating. It's really funny about porn actually, because I used to have a great relationship with porn. I used to say to people all the time, like, porn is your friend, watch it with your partner. It's great for, if you've got a high sex drive and your partner doesn't, you can satisfy yourself. It keeps your imagination, peaked. You can satisfy that sense of newness by watching porn. And now porn's moved into a really ugly stage with, there's such a concentration on aggressive acts like spitting, choking is terrible, slapping across the face. It's become very much like that. And young men are growing up to think that this is what a normal sex session is like. This is normal real life sex. It is not. Porn is nothing like real life sex. And then women look at it and go, gosh, right, okay, that's obviously what's expected of me. This is what I have to do. And it's moving into a very nasty direction.
They say unmet expectations equal unhappiness. So by setting expectations up here as like, we're going to do this for an hour and I'm going to tie you up and spit on you and choke you and you're going to make this sound and you're going to scream and you're going to tell me I'm this and you're going to say that I'm your father, whatever perverse thing it might be. Then for those unmet expectations equals unhappiness in the bedroom. You go, well, I'm going to have to go looking for something else. And
exactly. And that's what young men do because they think that's what sex is going to be about. It's not. So then they keep looking for the girls who will give them that. And then girls very quickly figure out, okay, if I want to be liked, I have to do that. I've just done a big thing on choking, and I interviewed all these young girls, and it was horrifying. It was they've been, between 58% of college students between the age of had all been choked. I think 30% of them had been asked, and I'm not talking about symbolic choking of just putting a hand on the throat, which even that freaks me out. But I'm talking about cutting off wind supply. There was one girl who told me she was 21. She'd gone out with this guy. He seemed really nice. He started choking her. She said no. She passed out. She woke up next to this guy who was asleep. He then said and then she got herself out of there and was like, oh my God, terrified. He texted her the next day and said, oh my God, babe, this sex was awesome. Let's meet up again. And she was just like, how could you possibly think that was good? And that worries me a lot. I think sex, I think, is moving in a great way in lots of ways, particularly for young women, except for things like that. I think that is terrible. So, no, you don't want to be satisfying yourself with porn.
I know the pussy's mine. I'ma fuck a couple more times and then I'm through with it. There's nothing else to do with it. Pass it to the homie, now you hit it.
Put Molly all in her champagne. She ain't even know it. I took her home and I enjoyed that. She ain't even know it.
A documentary maker called me a few months back to comment on a new animated porn scene that was growing in popularity. It's about a virgin princess called Daisy And Daisy is getting ready for her wedding night. And her friend tells her that she will magically turn herself into a man and teach her how to have sex. And so she does that. She uses a magic wand and she becomes a male with a dark-skinned face. And she begins to have penetrative sex. The now male partner begins to have penetrative sex with Daisy. Daisy is in pain and she says, "Stop, it hurts." Later on in the scene, Daisy turns to her partner and she says, "You raped me." But once the sexual act is finished, Daisy says, "Thanks for not listening to me. I liked it." We know that of young people who have seen porn, 70% of them have seen something non-consensual. 80% of them have seen a woman being called swear words, and 90% of them have seen a male controlling or dominating another person. That video was called Magical Sleepover. It's animated in such a way that it looks a little bit like a Disney movie. It's available on over 15 sites. It's had well over 10 million views. And if you search Magical Sleepover, as a 10-year-old might do, it sits right next to Dora the Explorer on Google image search results.
Given the nature of our story, I know the words that inevitably accompany it. Victim, rapist, and labels are a way to organize concepts, but they can also be dehumanizing in their connotations. Once someone's been deemed a victim, it's that much easier to file them away as someone damaged, dishonored, less than. And likewise, once someone's been branded a rapist, it's that much easier to call him a monster, inhuman. But how will we understand what it is in human societies that produces violence if we refuse to recognize the humanity of those who commit it? And how can we empower survivors if we're making them feel less than? How can we discuss solutions to one of the biggest threats to the lives of women and children around the world if the very words we use are part of the problem?
From what I've now learnt, my actions that night in 1996 were a self-centered taking. I felt deserving of Thordis's body. I've had primarily positive social influences and examples of equitable behaviour around me. But on that occasion, I chose to draw upon the negative ones, the ones that see women as having less intrinsic worth, and of men having some unspoken and symbolic claim to their bodies. These influences I speak of are external to me, though, and it was only me in that room making choices, nobody else. When you own something and really square up to your culpability, I do think a surprising thing can happen. It's what I call a paradox of ownership. I thought I'd buckle under the weight of responsibility, and I thought my certificate of humanity would be burnt. Instead, I was offered to really own what I did, and found that it didn't possess the entirety of who I am. Put simply, something you've done doesn't have to constitute the sum of who you are. The noise in my head abated. The indulgent self-pity was starved of oxygen, and it was replaced with the clean air of acceptance. An acceptance that I did hurt this wonderful person standing next to me. An acceptance that I am part of a large and shockingly everyday grouping of men who have been sexually violent towards their partners. Don't underestimate the power of words. Saying to Thordis that I raped her changed my accord with myself as well as with her. But most importantly, the blame transferred from Thordis to me. Far too often, the responsibility is attributed to female survivors of sexual violence and not to the males who enact it. Far too often, the denial and running leaves all parties at a great distance from the truth. There's definitely a public conversation happening now. And like a lot of people, we're heartened that there's less retreating from this difficult but important discussion. I feel a real responsibility to add our voices to it.
What we did is not a formula that we're prescribing for others. Nobody has the right to tell anyone else how to handle their deepest pain or their greatest error. Breaking your silence is never easy, and depending on where you are in the world, it can even be deadly to speak out about rape. I realize that even the most traumatic event of my life is still a testament to my privilege, because I can talk about it without getting ostracized or even killed. But with that privilege of having a voice comes the responsibility of using it. That's the least I owe my fellow survivors who can't. The story we've just relayed is unique, and yet it is so common, with sexual violence being a global pandemic, but it doesn't have to be that way. One of the things that I found useful in my own healing journey is educating myself about sexual violence. And as a result, I've been reading, writing, and speaking about this issue for over a decade now, going to conferences around the world. And in my experience, the attendees of such events are almost exclusively women. But it's about time that we stop treating sexual violence as a women's issue. A majority of sexual violence against women and men is perpetrated by men, and yet their voices are sorely underrepresented in this discussion. But all of us are needed here. Just imagine all the suffering we could alleviate if we dared to face this issue together.
We know that rainbow youth are more likely to become regular viewers of porn, are more likely to use porn for their sex education, and are more likely to try something they've seen in porn. So I've got 3 yeses for you. 1, yes, there is an education gap. 2, yes, it is unacceptable that any members of our community don't have access to positive, healthy, top quality education. 3, yes, we urgently need to create change in this space. Am I right? So let's rewind a little bit. Let's backtrack to the idea that it's helpful for them in that learning journey. I and my husband Dave, we have 3 boys. That is too many. But let's say, sorry, in the future they will see this, know that I love you. And let's say, hypothetically, that one of them comes to me in their late teens and he says that he is same-sex attracted. He says that nobody talked about that at sex ed, so he doesn't really understand what the sexual behaviours would be like. I get it. Should he go do his learning from porn online? While on Pornhub, the world's second most popular porn site, earlier this year, the most viewed, most popular gay scene was titled Daddy Bareback Punishes His Naughty Teen Boy. The scene underneath that was titled Straight Daddy Bareback Drills Femboy Pussy. To clarify, bareback means no protection is being used. The advertisement next to these scenes was titled Obedient Slave Boys Used Like Property. See, the researcher and author Christopher Kendall, he identified that gay porn can actually reinforce rather than break down a homophobic discourse. Gay males are degraded because of their feminine traits. The typically straight-looking partner is the one that has power, control, and dominance over the gay-looking partner. So yes, there is an education gap. And yes, porn is a teacher, but not a good one. Pleasure, consent, safety, those lessons are not learnt from mainstream porn. And our rainbow youth deserve better.
I feel like for real, boy. Electricity, vibe on a different PR, till infinity, steady on a different beat. Life is not that deep, it's all about the energy, the mentality. Now you make it my body, body